What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Feel the Burn podcast. I'm your host this go around, Chris Stinson, with Franklin Miller, Jacob Harden, and Rowan Donaghy. We're going to be getting into a lot of things today. There's been a lot going on around the league in both the NFL and the NBA for the Cardinals and the Suns. So we got a lot to get into, so we're just going to jump right into it with our NFL insider, Jacob Harden. Jacob, if you want to take us through a lot of shakeups happening with the Cardinals. I see that, they made the move to go ahead and hire Robert Rodriguez as the OLB coach. You got Sam, I hope I'm saying this right, name right,
Yeah,
Seekis.
no clue.
Okay, cool. As the linebackers coach, it's just a lot of shakeups happening. So what's
Yeah.
your overall thought on that? Like, how do you feel about like all the moves that are going on? Is it a good thing or?
It's interesting because you just get over Cliff Kingsbury, you bring in this young guy he hasn't coached the NFL yet. You're kind of taking this chance, and they decided after 4 seasons, all right, that chance didn't work. Let's bring in another young guy that hasn't had any experience, and let's have him bring in all of his young friends who don't have any experience. General through Monty Austin for all the way down. They're hiring their general manager, first time general manager, head coach, first time head coach, defense coordinator, offense coordinator, first times. Um, you're bringing in a lot of guys over from the Vikings. Jonathan Gannon has pretty much restarted this entire coaching staff. Besides Jeff Rogers, he was the special teams coordinator, assistant head coach. Besides that, from who they've announced that they're bringing back, it's been all new names. You have Drew Petzing, offense coordinator, Clayton Adams, offensive line coach, Nick Rallies, defensive coordinator, and then, like you said, the other two. It's a chance. I don't know if I'm a fan of it, but I can't be a fan of it until games have been played. So they seem to be, I think what they're building around is energy. You're seeing the social team and a lot of the, press conferences. They're wired around being energetic and bringing, being a kind of a player's coach. And we'll see if it works. They got a draft pick and they got some free agents they need to get. Still a long ways to go, but at least they're making moves.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gonna be a whole new
definitely. I
face.
saw one particular thing, and I know it kind of threw a lot of the, I'd say, media and some of the fans, I guess, for a loop a little bit with them parting ways with Vance Joseph as the,
Mhm.
defensive coordinator. How did you feel about that? With I mean, it kind of, I guess it's not necessarily left field, but once again, with
Yeah.
everything shaking up the way it is, I mean, maybe he was just part of the list to get out the door as well.
Yeah, I would assume it was a mutual kind of thing. Jonathan Gannon held his introductory press conference earlier that day. And there was a question about Vance Joseph, and he said that he was going to sit down with Vance Joseph, kind of see what kind of page they're on. He didn't mention anything about letting him go, so I would assume, the Broncos, who of course he's with the Broncos now, but he had interview set up with the Broncos and the Eagles already before the Cardinals parted ways with him. So I would assume that from Vance Joseph perspective, he was looking at it as I don't really want to be the one veteran guy in this all new coaching staff. I've already been with the Broncos. Why would you say no to Sean Payton as your head coach? So I think it was kind of a mutual thing. And then Jonathan Gann said, you know what? Yeah, that works best. I'll bring in my own guy.
Perfectly said. Franklin, how are you feeling about, everything that you're seeing going on? Just going to kind of get a feel from everybody on everything that's transpiring. Like I said, it seems like a lot of shakeup, from both the two teams that, two of the teams that we cover. So what's your thoughts on all the shakeup happening with the Cardinals?
Yeah, I think it's just what this tells me is that Michael Bidwell is all in with this whole new regime that they're doing, especially with all these new faces coming in. I don't think this is like no one and done deal. They're going to take as much time as possible. In a way, it kind of is like it's not. It feels like a rebuild, but it's more like a reloading because you're already going into with the sense of okay, they're building around Kyler Murray. They already got their quarterback, which is why it doesn't really make it a rebuild. But you're also trying to get younger while also trying to get off of really bad contracts. That's why you see all these trade rumors going around with their guys. I think obviously the most important thing that they got to do first is trying to find a way to keep Zach Allen there, who's a really good centerpiece for them. But I think overall, I like the approach of what they're doing. I think it is kind of like, especially if you're a Cardinals fan with all the shakeup that's happened over the years and all the non-winning, you're kind of skeptical with everybody being new. You kind of want that, like, lack for better words, like that Eric Bieniemy who's been, all around, and like, or anybody like that. And then obviously after what Jonathan Gannon's, you know, defense did against the Chiefs, which in my opinion is the Chiefs. Like, so like it's not that big of a deal. But like I think with everything what I've heard from like other people, I think Albert Breer said it best that there's a lot of GMs out there and ownership that were really wanting Jonathan Gannon to come on board to be their head coach. But I don't think a lot of those other teams were willing to wait that long. So I think it should be. They're all of them are saying the right things right now. It's a wait and see approach. Got to wait to see where when Kyler Murray gets back healthy. Got to see who your quarterback's going to be until he comes back healthy. You got to see who you get in that first draft pick. Will it be Jalen Carter? Will it be Will Anderson? I think you can't go wrong with either or. So they're in a good spot there. But I think they have all the ingredients to turn this thing around with where they're sitting at with draft wise, salary cap wise, everything. But you just gotta see how it goes with all the new faces. But I think it's something to be excited about. It's just gonna take some patience. I
I
think.
think they've
Yeah,
made it
definitely.
clear that this season isn't the goal. Not to go into the season expecting a disappointment, but matter of fact is you're not going to have your quarterback for almost half the year. It's not like they have tremendous talent on defense. You're probably going to lose a couple more players. You're going to draft a couple new ones, but those are going to take a couple years to develop. You have a brand new coaching staff. It's a work in progress, which is tough because after a 4-13 season, you don't want to hear work in progress seasons approaching. But when you have a new coaching staff, it would be one of the more impressive things if they could go out there and win games like they did a couple seasons ago. But the way they're speaking, it's more centered towards 2024.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was coming into this season that just passed. There was so much hype from the prior season and how they shot out the gate. And like you said, it may not be what Cardinal fans want to hear, but it's probably just what's best for right now with them resetting so much. Rowan, I'm going to throw it to you because I know you were extremely critical on, your input for the head coaching position and all of that. I feel like we really haven't had a chance to really, talk about it since they made their move and didn't, decide to go with Sean Payton. How are you feeling about, everything that's going on right now with Arizona?
I feel split between two different emotions. Um, just as a fan, it's kind of like a shock from left field. I feel like the Cardinals are in a bad habit of every 5 to 7 seasons rebuilding, getting up to a certain point, making the playoffs, having disappointing loss, and then just cleaning house and starting fresh. I would like to them to bring somebody in with more experience, just to kind of maybe keep the momentum going. Like it doesn't have to be a total rebuild, but they have broken this thing all the way down. Um, the other thing I don't understand about it is the fact that they were interviewing so many people, and for this guy to come in and have one interview and be mentioned as the guy who gets the job the same day as the interview, it was kind of surprising to me. I think a lot of fans were shocked. Um, Even if he's the right guy, just the way that it happened, it kind of shocked me and took me by surprise.
It was
Unless
interesting.
that's the guy they were waiting on,
Yeah,
which
what
they
that tell
Right.
what that tells me is they were probably doing due diligence with everybody else before then, with him in mind as the penciled in guy they wanted. They were just being patient because they had a feeling the Eagles were going to be going far in the playoffs, so they probably just waited.
But even before the game, it was like 5 days. Jonathan Gannon even said, "I'm staying in Philly. I'm not leaving. This is my home."
Yeah,
And it
That
was
was that
like,
was
and then
yeah, that was interesting. I
it's
didn't
very
understand
it
that.
weird because I
it
marked
was a
him out a
very odd
little. Yeah.
situation because I agree with Rowan. I mean, it was quick. Like there was no second. It took him 3 weeks, countless interviews, and then Super Bowl, and it almost seemed like Jonathan Gannon was the only guy that was like yeah, I'll be your head coach. Like, it seemed like a move out of desperation
I
because
didn't even think
nobody
about
else
that.
wanted the job, and Jonathan Gannon was like, "Yep, I'll do it." Just got blown out in the Super Bowl, not blown out, but
Yeah, and
just
most
allowed
coaches when
a
they
ton of
get
points in the
like
Super Bowl, and the entire city hates me. So
yeah, and I mean, most coaches when they get asked that question, like assistant coaches or something like that, it's normally if they don't want the position or if they're thinking about it, they'll say, right now my focus is on blah blah blah, or I'm focused on helping my current team, and I'll look. He straight up, like you said, Jacob. It was kind of just like no, and then here we are, So it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's
and I
it's
don't blame him.
definitely
I mean,
interesting.
you have a brand new coaching staff. You don't have an offensive coordinator. You don't have a defense coordinator locked up when he first entered. You have a quarterback who's out for almost half the season. You don't know if you're going to have DeAndre Hopkins. You have a defense that just allowed the third most yards and points per game the last season. You're coming into practically a dumpster fire. I mean, nobody really wants to coach that team, especially no veteran leadership type of guy wants to go in and coach that team. Because
Yeah.
the Cardinals are looking at a situation where they had those core kind of veteran dudes with J.J. Watt, AJ Green. They still do have Zach Ertz, but that's going to be slowly gone too. And all of a sudden, they're going to be looking at a complete rebuild if they're not able to keep some of these guys like Zach Allen around.
The other two things I thought was weird about it is all the hype and talk about Kyler Murray having his say so. And I just felt like it happened way too quick for Kyler Murray to even have an opinion on it. Unless they just did the interview, called Kyler Murray, briefed him on it, and got the okay. I don't think they had time to really let Kyler Murray talk to him in a room face to face. I also saw some viral clips of him meeting a lot of the players, and
That was a lot of
awkward
yeah.
is the
It seemed
word.
really staged.
Like a PR stunt.
Well, definitely.
For sure. You gotta be sold if you're the fans. They gotta sell the new guy, which is understandable.
Well, because right now the only people commenting under any of the Arizona Cardinals posts are pretty much Phoenix Suns fans because that's all they want to hear. So I think when the Cardinals were announcing that head coach, it was horrible timing because Suns are getting Kevin Durant, and who cares? Cardinals got a head coach, so
Crazy
the Cardinals,
time.
I think, were trying to get as much attention as possible through this spree of hirings. But
Then
why would you want to talk about Jonathan Gannon when you can talk about Kevin Durant?
Yeah, I think they blew that window that they had where we were all kind of sitting there on the edge of our seat waiting on them to make that move. And it just kind of came as a little mini firework compared to Durant. It was like, oh, yeah, we made a hiring. And it's like, all right,
Those
Kevin
are title
Durant.
contenders, so.
Yeah. Brings me to my next question, Jacob, as far as you mentioned, kind of briefly touching on veterans that they have. A lot of them are gone. Well, not a lot, but, you're losing some key people in, J.J. Watt. With the, DeAndre Hopkins possibly, being on the move, if they move him, if they explore trade scenarios for him, it's kind of it feels like what I'm getting from around the everybody reporting on it is kind of like a maybe they do, maybe they don't. It's not a lot of traction behind it though. There's no like materialized. Maybe they're just like scouting the area, seeing what they could get for him. What's going on that? Do you see anything like possibly being a thing with that where he is moved before the season gets underway?
I think they're stuck in a tough situation, and they need, in my opinion, they need to either decide they're going to rebuild or they have enough talent to compete because they don't want to be stuck. Let's say the Saints. You lose Drew Brees, and you're kind of just average. You're just kind of there. You don't really have any spectacular talent. You're not too bad. Your defense is okay. And what I'm guessing what they're doing with Hopkins right now is trying to make that decision. Do we have enough talent without Hopkins to make the playoffs? And if we don't, then what are we doing? Because we need to either rebuild and start it all over again, try to get as many draft picks as we can, start going for that young talent, or we need to go 100% in on Hopkins, keep Hopkins around, try to win as many games for that first 6 weeks of the season before we get Murray back, and then attack it at 100%, get Zach Allen back, get as many free agents as we can. And I'm guessing what they're doing right now is they're just watching film. They're getting all these coaches together, trying to figure out a game plan. And if Hopkins fits in that game plan, then he fits in the game plan.
How do you feel about that, Rowan? As far as because I see, like I said, so many people kind of leaning both ways on D Hop being out of there. I mean, obviously, it's like everybody said, you don't have Kyler for the first half of the season at least. Even when he comes back, still got to work on new coach, new system, all of that. Should they, and how are you feeling about? Should they just probably go ahead and just get what they can for him, or just hold out and hope everything shapes up?
It is a tough situation. These are the decisions that make or break franchises. I honestly think they should keep him. He's a top five, top seven at his age now. He's not top two anymore, but he's still top 10 for sure. You can't argue that as a wideout position. Last season, I think the offensive line never gave Kyler Murray a chance to push the ball down the field. We never really got a chance to see DeAndre Hopkins be explosive since the 10-1 start to the season 2 seasons ago. And also, I don't know, man. The first 6 weeks of the season, you got a backup quarterback. What's the easiest thing for a quarterback to do? Throw it up to a superstar like D Hop. I think that'll
Yeah.
give him a safety bound. What's it called? I think that'll give him something. If he gets into trouble, he could just. I got D Hop 1-on-1 at least. I can go there if anything's going wrong. And 60-70% of the time, he's going to come down with the ball. I mean, he saved Kyler Murray countless times in that 10-1 season, especially with the Hail Mary that everybody knows of. But even other plays, DeAndre Hopkins really is the only offense that they have. They brought in Hollywood Brown, and he never really got his footing in the offense. Like I said, we never saw the Cardinals be able to push the ball down the field last season. So it's hard to just say, oh, well, let's trade D-Hop and build around something else. I don't think it would be a bad move, especially if you can get some draft picks. But I just think keeping DeAndre Hopkins is some kind of safety beam for whoever's at quarterback, whether it's Kyler Murray or the backup. And I also think Kyler Murray missing the first 6 games is going to open a lot of people's eyes because I think they're going to have a better first 6 games than the last end of the 11 games.
Your bold take. What's your
That's a
take
hot
on
take
that,
right there.
Franklin? That's a bold take. Yeah.
37-year-old Colt McCoy. No, I mean,
Hey, Colt McCoy's a winner, baby.
Hollywood Brown, Greg Dortch, and
Yeah.
could even.
I mean, I'll
Mr.
just
Ruby right now.
real quick, just to
Celia?
jump on the D Hop stuff. I think whatever decision they decide to make on D Hop will tell a lot about where
Yep.
Jonathan Gannon and his coaching staff believe how far they are from
Yep.
competing for a championship, in my opinion.
If they
trade
get
him,
a first round and a defensive player, then do it. I mean, but if you can't get a really nice deal, then don't. There's no point.
yeah.
They need a running game too, man. This whole
They do.
Let
Yes, they
Kyler run
There's some
around like a
upgrades
playground
needed.
and just chuck it.
Yeah.
They for sure need a running game. That's been
It's-
lacking the past few seasons, in my
I
opinion.
mean, their offensive line
definitely-
was so injured last year.
That's true too.
It was just
Yeah. It took too many hits for it to, like Rowan said, it's like we didn't really get to see for all of these talented
James
offensive
Conner.
weapons. Yeah, we never really got to see because once you started seeing all these names on paper, you're like, oh crap, like this could be like they might be all right. And like you said, D Hop never really got a chance to be D Hop. It felt like he was there, but he wasn't there at the same time sometimes. So yeah.
And again, I hate to put everything on Kyler Murray's shoulders. I said this when they fired Cliff Kingsbury. I think the better move would have been to switch quarterbacks. I think most of the problem was the split locker room between Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. It kind of showed in the offense. Everybody, and I mean everybody, not one of y'all can sit here and tell me y'all didn't expect the Cardinals to at least put up 25, 30 points a game last season. Even if they didn't win, you expected them to lose in shootouts. However, they could barely get up to 16, 17 on the
there
whole
were
season.
a massive amount of games where I went into it expecting a shootout, and it turned into like a field goal frenzy. So
Jonathan Gannon said something about it. He said the playbook was too complicated. That's what his recollection of why they struggled on an offense last year. He said offense playbook was too complicated for Murray. So his plan right now
Too complicated for Murray.
Yeah, I
As
forgot how many games they went where it was like a streak where they hadn't scored in the first quarter for however long. It was
their
a crazy
longest play
amount.
downfield was like 35 yards
Yeah,
and whatnot.
it was a
Touchdown pass to
crazy
AJ Green
record.
in the last week. So
So
you don't have
yeah,
you're not giving yourself a chance right there.
definitely a
Man,
lot to see there. Well, jumping over to the Phoenix side of things with the Suns, a lot of great things happening around that side of the parks, for better or for worse. Kevin Durant is a Phoenix Sun, will make his debut hopefully against the Charlotte Hornets. The Suns take on the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight, back from the All Star break. Everybody's pretty much looking good to go. So, Franklin, you're seeing a lot of reports from practice of everybody, like there's a different atmosphere in the building. People are taking a different approach. And the general notion is that everybody in that building feels like they really can like win it all, like they're in win now mode. It's do or die. So, what's your overall feeling from what you've seen, like going on around the facilities and everything that's been coming out of there?
yeah, I mean, confidence is one thing. I think having a guy like Kevin Durant in the building changes the atmosphere no matter where you go, honestly. And I think one of the things is that people are taking really into detail about what he does is his work ethic. I think DeAndre Ayton said it. I was at practice yesterday and DeAndre Ayton was talking and he said that shoot, man, I need to start coming to practice a little earlier because the minute he got to practice, Kevin Durant was already done with like warm-ups and was in a cold sweat. So like he was already ready to go before DeAndre Ayton was even ready to like warm up. And DeAndre Ayton thought he got there early. So that kind of mindset changes things for this franchise and this organization. I understand why they did what they had to do, and so there's a lot of the one thing I took also from the Suns from this past few weeks is they're going to keep it tight knit with the media in terms of like how they're going to talk handle the Kevin Durant stuff because there's a lot of new faces coming everywhere. Like ESPN's always here now, and like all these different outlets just trying to get a story out on KD and the truth of the matter is we're really not going to know exactly what's going to be the final product on the floor until we see it in the game. But one thing I am looking forward to is two things, and that's one, who's going to be the final the final
Starter.
spot
Yeah.
with between Okogie and Craig. I would love for it to be Okogie from a
I'm
Gotta be
putting my
one.
bid in for a Kobe.
I
Yeah,
There's
love,
I'm
no way
putting
you
my
don't
bid
give
in
it to
for a
him. No
Kobe.
way.
yeah.
If they put it in for Craig, we riot. All right, nothing against Craig, but yeah, come
Yeah,
on.
but and then secondly, it's how will Monty Williams handle the bench? I think that will be the key in the seat, just knowing how far this team is going to go. Because one thing I took from last week's loss to the Clippers was Monty said they felt like he played way too many people in the rotation, which means he doesn't really have a feel for how he wants to go with the rotation yet. I think Terrence Ross is a perfect fit for Devin Book to back up Devin Booker. I think their games are very very similar.
Yeah,
I
He
think
looked
they
good.
yeah, he looked
he
really
did.
good.
He looked
I
good.
think mid range, everything. He's got the whole package offensively, and I think he's going to
Oh
keep
yeah,
the second unit afloat with his scoring. I think T.J. Warren. I think he should get a lot more minutes than what he did. Darius Baisley hasn't played yet, which is
yeah.
something that I'm really interested to wanting to know why he hasn't been playing. I think this mainly just maybe a developmental situation going on because he really gives you good defense. And also, yeah, just um, hopefully, if Cameron Payne coming back soon, we'll see how that goes as well. So I just want to know how Monty Williams alludes with this bench to play behind them, and then they just gotta stay healthy. But I think they have all the right pieces. With everywhere you look, they got elite scoring, they got elite shot creating. They got elite facilitating. They got some defensive pieces with Josh Kogi and Biz as rim protection. You got Damian Lee who can knock down threes left and right.
In the
I
fourth
think they got
quarter.
all the pieces there. Now
They're
to now to Rowan's point of like, it has to happen this season. They got or if not this season, next season, but they got a small window to get this thing done because but in my opinion, this season they got everything they need They just gotta.
Yeah, I'm giving them a 2 season window too, and to kind of piggyback off what you said, not just as far as the Suns, as far as like the front office trying to keep things tight knit, but you can tell the players aren't necessarily buying the whole, top dog thing. I know they said, Devin Booker had his comment when they brought up the super team to him, and he was like, well, we
Yep.
only had one All Star. So you can tell with that type of attitude, it's like, yeah, we know what we have, but we're not buying into the whole like Warriors, with Durant type feel. We're trying to
Yeah.
keep everything still as simple as possible. And if they can do that, I mean, pretty big things can happen, man. I believe so. Probably one of the more deadlier mid-range rosters ever assembled between
Mm-hmm.
Booker, KD, Terrence Ross, Chris Paul. I mean, the list goes on. Aiton, even he's a mid-range guru. So, Rowan, I know you know how you feel. I just want to kind of get it out the way now that you've seen a little bit more of the roster shape up and everything before tonight tips off. Obviously, Durant's not back yet, but how are you feeling about how the Suns are looking now?
I mean, it's exciting. The biggest problem I had with the trade was you already got Chris Paul on his last leg. You just traded for Kevin Durant, who's coming in on his last leg. I just didn't like that they traded away the future. I feel like they're gonna have one or two great seasons, and then we're gonna be rebuilding again around Booker with nobody else. But I am excited. I'm excited about the energy that's going around the city. I'm excited about the energy going on online. I've heard and seen more people talking about the Phoenix Suns just in the past 2 weeks than I have in the past 5 or 6 years. So in that sense, it is exciting. I still have a lot of questions on the defensive end. I think Booker and KD, they coming down either side. It's going to be a mismatch. They both going to drop 40 every game, but it's going to be about holding the other team. I think under like 110. I think the Suns can average around 112 or more on offense. But holding the other team to under 110 in this NBA, especially once you get into the playoffs, is going to be the challenge on a night in and night in basis. I think they're going to have games where they look amazing. I think they're going to have games where they fall apart, especially when those jumpers are falling, because as you just said, this is going to be a jumper galore from this roster. Nobody's going to be attacking the basket. Um, which I think makes it easier to guard them in a sense. Yes, KD is one of the most dynamic scorers. Booker's right behind him as one of the most dynamic scorers. Chris Paul is one of the smartest point guards. But if nobody's going to attack the paint, you can kind of play everybody on the perimeter a little tighter. And even if they do drive, they're uncomfortable driving. Once they get into the lane, layup area, tough finishes will be hard for this team, unless they're dunking the ball. But at the end of the day, I am excited. I think Darius Baisley kind of saved the whole trade deadline, the move to get him. You still got Bismack back there for defensive purposes when he's on the floor. They got size, which is always nice on a basketball game. It'll just be, I don't know. I know it's gonna take time to gel. I still think it's a weird move for a franchise to go all in on 18 months.
Yeah, definitely, Jacob. I know you were kind of feeling the same way. Obviously excited. One hand, KD's here, but I know you kind of had the same when the news broke. You were just kind of like, "What?" Like, Cam Johnson and McCall Bridges, and now that it's kind of like I said, the roster's starting to shape out a little more. How are you feeling about it more now?
Um, I'm interested in seeing. I think the big question is how they have 22 games left. How are they going to attack these next 22 games? You're seeing it around the NBA. Coaches and kind of players are speaking out about resting because that's been a major problem this year. And I just
Yeah.
don't see DeAndre and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, all three, and Chris Paul, all four on the same court. I don't even. I mean, I would say maybe 15 of the last 20 games, if that. Um, it's going to be a balance that Monty Williams is going to have to decide of the West. I mean, you lose 3 games in a row, and all of a sudden you're out of the playoffs. Monty Williams he's going to have to do a brilliant job of balancing between resting his starters enough so they're ready for playoffs, and not resting them enough so they're not out of the playoffs. I think they need to stay above 5 or 6 in the Western Conference. And I wrote about this the other day, just looking at their schedule. They have the third hardest schedule to finish off the season. They got Bucks twice, Nuggets twice, 76ers, Kings twice, Clippers, and Mavs, and they play the Thunder 4 times. And the Thunder, I mean, that's gonna be a high scoring
Not a
game.
cakewalk.
Yeah,
That's
no, I mean they're gonna put up 130, so it's gonna be interesting to see how he'll attack that regular season because there's only 20 games left. It's not like how it used to be an All-Star break and you got half your season left. Couple games losing and you're out of the playoffs. So I would like for them to start, as many games as they can. They're starting 4 or 5 guys to get that chemistry going. They haven't put a single game on the court yet, and you're expecting this team to go on a deep playoff run. You only got 22 games until that playoff starts. So you got to get these guys on the court and you have to get them playing together.
Yeah, if they fall to a play-in spot and they go cold, season's over.
It's almost a double-edged sword of trying to do the waiting game. That's always been a thing with the trade deadline. Like, oh, we waited out. Okay, yeah, we waited it out. But the bad news is now we have this many less games to try to get our stuff together. I was watching the Lakers game last night, and not that you're sitting here saying the Lakers are like an imminent threat or anything, but they're 3.5 games. Well, they were 3.5 games back of the number 6 seed, and they're in the 13th spot right now. So, I mean, the West is not something that you can take a couple of nights off in, like Jacob said. Now, you kind of knew what you had. Yeah, we kind of said it's not enough, but you knew what you had in the roster where you had Bridges and Johnson, and now you're trying to figure this out. My thoughts on it really quickly is, and it kind of goes into the next topic. I saw a report, which kind of got to take it with, how it comes, that a lot of the players are, speaking highly of bringing in a veteran like Carmelo Anthony and Derrick Rose. It's 2 ways I feel about that, and I know a lot of people feel the same ways. When you're speaking on bringing people like that in, it means 2 things. One, you're in win now mode because you're bringing in these super, you know what they do, you know how they can contribute, and you're in win now mode. The other thing to that kind of plays to Rowan's point. You're putting yourself on the timetable now because when you start letting people know, hey, we want the Carmelos, the D Roses of the world, you're putting yourself in that timetable to where if you don't do anything this season and you don't do anything next season, you're back to probably being the most, hated team in the league, which luckily for the Suns right now, the Grizzlies have that. So, it's, I don't know, man. As far as Melo goes, I think he'd be obviously he brings scoring. You haven't seen him play in forever. You don't know what he's going to look like. Yeah, you just don't know what he's going to look like game shape wise. I much rather probably would see Rose come in and have some of those guard minutes if you're going to bring in either of the two. But I just feel like you're putting
in 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, either of them they're not, which I mean, I get it, you can come back and get in the game shape, but I mean, either of them, I just feel like you're kind of putting yourself in a huge spotlight. I think you need to kind of wait and see what you look like with Durant and then go from there. I wouldn't be going and running to sign Melo. I mean, it's a reason he hasn't been on a team. He is a Hall of Famer, but it's a reason nobody's been, fighting over him for the last couple of off seasons. I mean,
can I say something real quick about that? D Rose was the best player on the Knicks team last year in the playoffs, which isn't saying much.
2 years ago. 2 years ago.
2 years ago when they made that crazy run,
they lost to the Hawks.
Yeah,
that was 2 years ago. That's crazy. Time is flying.
It
Carmelo Anthony, I'm not going to speak on it too much. My favorite player of all time. I love Carmelo Anthony more than anybody knows. Since his college days at Syracuse, that's been my guy. I want to say this, though. Everywhere he's gone, he loses.
Yeah.
I've never been able to root for him without getting ridiculed, and rightfully so. Even though that is my favorite player and I ride for him till I die, anybody that knows me still make fun of me to this day. Yeah, but I don't think – what's he going to do? Come in and take some more jump shots? We need some defense, man.
I wanted to allude to
Patrick Bev.
I just wanted to allude to the Melo thing. I think Melo could be a good piece for a playoff team. I really do. I still think he can give you a solid, if anything, 10 to 12 points off the bench. and contribute. I just think from the Suns' perspective, it lose to you. I feel like defense would be a little better for them right now. But two, it's like where's the fit? I mean, like you kind of, at least on the bench perspective, you already kind of got an all-around scorer in Terrence Ross right there. I mean, T.J. Warren's game, for lack of better words, right now is in the similar mode to how you would get with Carmelo Anthony to come off the bench. So it's like a bunch of isolation ball off the bench, which is not something
Which I
sleaze at, in
mean,
my
Melo
opinion.
maybe doesn't even play a bunch of minutes if they get him. I mean, he's probably
Yeah,
like a end of rotation, come in, type of guy. But like you said
exactly.
again, once you're at that point of your career, it's like, where's the fit? If I'm Monty Williams or James Jones, it's like, how does he fit into what we're trying to do? We already got
Exactly.
scoring. We
And they,
wanted
they should be
scoring.
going after young guys. They have,
Yeah,
I think, what they need to be worried about is, what happens if Kevin Durant does miss, a week. Just that week, you have 3 games that week. All of a sudden, you're looking at getting knocked out of the playoffs. This happens in April. They need to
Yeah.
be looking at young guys who are going to be healthy, not Derrick Rose or Carmelo Anthony, who you don't know if they're going to be healthy for those last 2 months. You need guys who can play defense, who are healthy, and give you 20 games off the bench to finish off this season. Um,
Yeah, that's
it
kind
feels
of
like
not
a Cardinals move, like AJ.
yeah.
Let's
yeah,
just throw AJ Green on there.
yeah,
The thing with that is, it's kind of tough because a lot of the guys you can probably try to only get is off the buyout market, and a lot of the people in the
yeah.
buyout market are those aging veterans,
Yeah,
which leads me to my point. I would love for them to go after Serge Ibaka. That's just me though,
I would
just
love that.
because Serge Ibaka gives you good offensive rebounding and shot blocking, rim protection. In my opinion, that's all you need to go along with Terrence Ross and a T.J. Warren and a Cameron Payne if you want to add him with that as well. So it's like I that's just kind of where I'm at with it. Um
They
but
definitely could use that
based
big
off of
man.
but based off of them already re-signing Ish Wainwright, I don't see that happening.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
kind of
like
limits the. I mean, they always kind of had like their big men lineup. I think kind of spoken for with Aiton and Busy and Jock. You
yeah.
had Sarich, but you got to, obviously he got traded, so maybe they want that fourth, guy that can, be a 4 or 5 on any given night. Especially because you see Monty tweak with his big lineup as far as the reserve so much. Maybe they felt like that, but yeah, kind of like to your point though, Franklin. It's not really a lot in the buyout market at first. Like you said, it's a lot of aging veteran guys, and it's fit. I mean, the highlight of the buyout market this season, for the most part, was Russell Westbrook, which, I mean, reports just came out the Clippers didn't even really want him, but Paul George pushed them to get him
I
because
think
they didn't
Terrence
think
Ross
he
was a
was
good one
good.
too. Terrence Ross is a
Yeah, I
great
mean,
one.
yeah, it's more so of a fit thing.
Yeah.
I think they kind of just need to sit back, see, give TJ Warren some time to get. I mean, that I think people are kind of missing the whole TJ Warren effect. I'm not trying to label it because I know it's easy for people to throw the bubble thing up, like, oh, he only really did that during the bubble, all of that. I get it, but I think he really can bring that spark that they need defensive and offensively. He's a two-way player. And I think he's still just trying to get his legs under him. People keep forgetting that. So he didn't have a ton of like time with the Nets as far as playing on the floor with them this season, as far as getting his legs going. I mean, if you give him a chance, he might be that piece that you think you need that you already got. So I think they just kind of need to play back and see versus throwing, like you said, another person in the mix. I mean, Monty's already got enough problems trying to figure out who to play, how many minutes to play him. You add a Derrick Rose, who he's kind of selfless at this point, but I'm pretty sure he's going to expect a certain number of minutes, or same for Carmelo. Um, I think they just kind of need to wait and see, honestly.
Yeah, I think Serge Ibaka would be a great pickup, even if he doesn't play too many minutes. Just having a guy who's won a championship and has played high level basketball at the center position to even be a mentor to Aiton and a Bismack and a Jock and just be that presence
Especially
under the
Aiden.
lane.
That'd be good for
Now,
Aiden for sure.
especially Aiton. Yeah, I think that could take his game to the next level. Offensively, Aiton has all the tools. Defensively, he's sometimes he seems to be like a half step out of position where he needs to be to really make a good defensive play or even box out and grab the board. I think somebody like Serge Ibaka, that was a great point. Franklin could really just come in and drop some wisdom in the locker room, man.
I think that
Yeah.
contract with Ish Wainwright might have
Yeah.
saying something too.
When I saw
but
that, yeah, literally when I saw that right before we got on here, I said that
it's
they
kind of a
may have
sense saying
already
we're
looked.
giving this guy playing time.
Yeah, they may have already looked at everything available and said, you know what, we know what Ish can
Exactly.
do. You know, we've
Exactly.
seen what he can do. No, it's not the best thing out there, but it's a pretty valuable thing to have. So, and more to your point, Rowan, I think, you know, like you said with Serge mentoring Aiton, but like you said earlier, maybe KD's that guy too for him. I mean, like you said, it's, you know, like Franklin said, he was talking about how he thinks he needs to come in earlier and stuff now. And that's something we've been pretty critical on Aiden about is his work ethic. And Booker couldn't seem to get through to him. Chris Paul at times could, but maybe Durant is like that, you know, that piece, because like so many players that have played with him say, when you're in the, you know, in the gym with them, it just turns up the intensity. You're gonna try to match his intensity because you don't want to be that guy. So
He's a gym
yeah, I
rat.
think he's definitely
Well,
a gym rat.
he eats, sleeps, and breathes basketball, man. KD's
Yeah.
all about basketball.
That's one thing I loved and respected about him since his days back in college, man.
Texas? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Longhorn Nation. I'm not a Texas
So,
fan. I don't know why I said that.
Before we get out of here tonight, like I said, Suns playing the Thunder. Going to be having it at home, obviously. No Durant, no Shamit, and you know, Cameron Payne still day to day with that foot injury. On the other side, for the Thunder, which once again, like Jacob said earlier, they played them a decent amount of times. They're not a walkover team, as bad as people don't want to hear it. Even with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander possibly not playing tonight, that team has some dogs on it. I mean, some
Yeah,
young
no first overall pick either.
man, yeah, and no first overall pick in Chet. I mean, they're still like giving a lot of these tough teams like a really rough time.
They're fun to watch.
What's your guys' predictions on tonight? I mean, like I said, obviously still no, you know, Durant debut yet, but what are we looking at first game back from the All-Star break?
I can say it real quick. I got Thunder +8 if Shai Alexander Gilgeous plays. If he doesn't play, I just will enjoy watching it. I'm really enjoying these Suns, watching them play right now because, like we talked about for the last 30 minutes, the intensity is there. The urgency is there. It's fun to watch. I can't wait to see Kevin Durant come back. Maybe he is that missing piece to the puzzle.
I have Suns winning by 3 or 4. I think Thunder, good, talented young team, but they can't close out games. They love to lose nail biters, and the Suns love to play in nail biters. So, with Devin Booker can pull it off, but gonna be high scoring.
Yeah, and I got the Suns winning tonight in a shootout. Obviously, I think it changes if Shai doesn't play tonight, obviously, which we'll find out, I think, in like 15, 20 minutes at most. But I got the Suns winning tonight. I think the sense of urgency is key, like what Jacob was saying. The West is so close and they know KD's coming soon, that they got to try to get as many games as possible before he gets back. I think that'll play a factor. I think the Thunder are going to do everything they can to spoil them. I think someone on the bench is going to surprise us today. I don't know who that will be, but we're going to see somebody new be like, oh, wow, maybe he can contribute this season down.
Calling out a Terrence Ross 25 piece tonight.
Hey, Terrence Ross slowly becoming one of my favorite players.
I'm calling it. He's been one of my favorites since he was with the Magic.
I enjoyed watching him play.
I felt like no matter where he went, I literally felt like it was a disservice to the whole league for him to be wasting so many years.
If he went to the Mavs, Lord have mercy. I mean, they still struggle on defense. Don't get me wrong, but that offense would have been even crazier. But man, yeah. So,
that's your favorite team, Frank?
Who, the Mavs? No.
I feel like you bring them up every chance you get.
His favorite team is whatever team.
That's because they scare me the most when it comes to this Suns team, bro. Mavs have some on them, bro. I don't know what Luka did to this city, but it ain't good. He got them drunk or something. I don't know.
They'll get a rematch.
Yeah,
it's a collision course, like you said, Jacob. That's where I feel like it's going.
If we get a Suns Mavericks playoff, which, like I keep telling people, you can want it, but it has to fall that way.
4 or 5 seed. I mean, first round.
Yeah, it has to fall that way for it to happen. But man,
I
if
would
we
hate
get
for
it,
that to be the first.
That would suck.
The first.
It would be a
Denver
great
doesn't
Western
even-
Conference Finals.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Western Conference Finals.
And
That'd be must-watch
I
TV.
seriously think the Mavs are the biggest threat to the Suns. I think they match up decent against the Nuggets. They have in years past, even without Durant. So I don't think they'll have as big as trouble. Mavs have just been the team that's been
I
there.
see a lot of people saying that they think it's going to be the Suns. If it falls that way, of course, the Suns and the Nuggets at the end.
If it's the Suns and the Nuggets,
That's definitely the favorite right now.
If it's the Suns and the Nuggets, I think the Nuggets, in my opinion, have the best Western Conference roster. Or at least or not West Conference, not roster, but starting 5 in the Western Conference. And that's a hot take, but I truly believe that. I just not really sold on their bench.
So the Suns right now are favorites to win the Western Conference, and they're down 10 games with 22 games left in the season.
That's how much KD
That's how much.
Winning the Western Conference means they're gonna go to the finals. It don't matter what seed they are. Oh, he said 10 games back. I thought he meant that was going.
Oh, is that what it means?
Yeah, it just means they're going to go to the finals.
All right, that's my bad. I thought it means coming up on top.
They can get home court. That means everything against anyone. I mean, it just does. Saw that last year. So definitely,
it is crazy to me that the Suns have the shortest odds in the West to win the championship.
Well, it's not even close. I don't think.
Yeah, Nuggets are 600. They're 450. The Suns, and then Clippers, for some reason, are behind them at 1,000.
People have faith in the Clippers for some reason, and I just don't see it yet. So you gotta play for a long time.
It's every year with them, man.
Because they got the new Michael Jordan, man.
Kawhi.
Boy, is cold, bro.
When he plays, that's the thing. You gotta throw in the little "when he plays" clause behind him. When he plays.
Watching him play last week was cool. He didn't have a good game, but
like 0 for 12
still really cool.
Game.
No, he broke my heart, man. He was my favorite player. I told everybody like 2012 when Melo retired, Kawhi gonna be my guy, and then Kawhi just stopped playing when Melo retired. So I'm like, I ain't even can't do nothing with this NBA. But
it is, man. Well, this is once again another edition of the Feel the Burn podcast. I'm your host this go around once again, Chris Denson, with Franklin Miller, Jacob Harden, and of course Rowan Donaghy. We will see you all next week, and hopefully with a lot more good news to go with it.
Yes, sir. Spring training starts tomorrow for the Diamondbacks. Also, any college basketball fans in Arizona, you got the interstate rivalry of Arizona versus Arizona State tomorrow. Huge game for Arizona State, trying to get back into the bubble talk. Arizona currently a 2 seed projected in the tournament. Like Chris said, thank y'all. Have a good one.